So in the last part of the monograph, I talk a little bit about what about today's learners? Are they neurologically different? And you've probably seen these kinds of terms before, digital natives and I-generation, millennials, and so forth. And of course, a whole bunch of books, aimed at how we're supposed to teach these new learners. If you read a lot of these, you will see in there very strong claims made about how they are wired differently. So people that have grown up in the digital world, where the internet has always been a part of their lives, and computers and technology, think differently and are wired differently than the digital immigrants like the rest of us. The problem is that there is really no evidence that this is the case. So there's a lot of claims, no evidence. So Helsper and Anon, they actually did a search. They're looking at a search for articles about digital natives. Thousands of articles pop up, a lot of them making these brain claims. I could not find a single empirical research study that showed any neurological differences in the two groups. The only thing I found remotely close, which I'm going to go ahead and put up here, was a school project. It wasn't even an empirical peer-reviewed article that simply found that the digital immigrants, those of us who grew up before technology, when we look at a page, our eye scanning tends to mirror sort of this F pattern. It's where we look on the page, whereas the younger generation, the digital natives, tend to use a Z pattern when they're scanning information. And it's probably simply just a function of how we learn to read and what kind of information we're exposed to. So digital immigrants, everything's pretty much on the left, the headings and the paragraphs. Digital natives more likely to have, things that they look at with a Z pattern of information. Not sure how useful that is in the classroom, but that was the only thing I could even find. Even though you will find thousands of articles claiming we're wired differently, and maybe we are, but there's just no evidence of that yet. Okay, so even though we don't have evidence of that, certainly today's student is expecting a different learning experience. So you can I just picked a year, 1980, but you compare what education used to look like versus what students are asking for today. Definitely a different cognitive style. We used to be more linear and step by step. Today's student likes to do more parallel processing, looking at several things at once. Delayed gratification, used to have to wait a week to get your test score and then hike across campus and look at the little paper taped up there, And today's student wants to know, is it going to be on Canvas by this afternoon? So they want instant gratification. Instructions first versus trial and error learning. In the digital immigrant, if we got a new camera, we wanted to read the manual or watch the video on the how-to, and then we touch the camera. Today's student that picks up the camera and just starts messing with it. The instructions are, maybe afterward or maybe not used at all. So trial and error learning, individual work versus collaborating. This one I thought was interesting too. Teach first and problem second. So a lot of us are used to, I'm going to teach you how to do something, and now I'm going to give you a problem and you work on it. Today's student, they want the problem first. Let me dive in and work on it, and then you can tell me afterward, what it all means. And then just a total different focus on memorizing from, leftover from the industrial age where it was important to memorize facts. It's just not as important anymore. My students don't need to know the father of psychology because they can take their phone out and in 10 seconds they can tell me the father of psychology. So the focus now is on using and applying it, not memorizing. So that changes the way we do our exams and what we focus on in the classroom.